Hello, thank you for tuning in. This is Barry Signs. I am going to be talking about my book, and there's going to be is the first of many podcasts I'm going to be doing about this. But I just wanted to share some brief, perspective of the dating culture and the whole reasons why people break up and divorce and or stay single. And it's a real painful thing when people get to that point of rather being single for the rest of their life than to deal with other problems that they are faced with in their relationships. What this propelled me to do after I've experienced my own things, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just focus on Jesus Christ, and I'm gonna just be um, seeking what He has for me to do. And this is what helped me make sense of what I should be doing in this world. And this helped me make me look at the world in a way of, yeah, we have this condition, and I don't believe it's God's will that we have this destruction of relationships, from you know destruction of marriage, destruction of families. Just it's not God's will that that this is happening. It's an affliction, and this is the condition of the world we live in. But what it does for me is that it gives me this sense of mission, that there are other people who are suffering like this, and I'm able to understand it and identify exactly why they are struggling or I'm struggling. So I could identify, I could really empathize, and so this gives me that type of empathy that drives me on a mission, and so I keep going forward with it. And it is tough because I keep finding that the Lord's putting me in situations where there are people really struggling. And I don't see it ever ending. And I don't know when the transition will happen where everybody's just really happy. And I'm like, okay, finally I could find, the relationship I've been looking for. And I constantly look for that type of thing. But my primary focus is what the mission that the Lord Himself has given me, and I really have to pay attention to that, or else I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be able to have a smile on my face, and find even if I go through like down, go into a recycled like a downtime where I'm just feeling mopey, and I just like and those recycled regrets kind of go through my head. I'm like, what am I doing in my life, type of thing. And I know where to go to for a source of to bring that peace and happiness back in my life. And it's gotten to a point where I have to do that every day, and I have to spend time with God every single day. I have to get more and more uh, uh, entrenched in that. I have to dig my roots deeper in that and pray to Him with greater faith and greater desire. And then the next day, I try to um, exercise faith like I haven't before, and then identify fears, and go forward and try to break through those barriers. And so this is a daily thing, and it's a daily battle. And I know other people go through this stuff, and every time I talk to people, and I could tell they're going through that same battle. But this is a and that's why this title of the book is very fitting, because it's the single zombie apocalypse. It That's why I liked titling it that, and also I could use those metaphorical um, pathogens, viruses, poisons, decay of the spirit type of thing, where you get this zombie like person who lets these things, these afflictions get to them, and then they become just the living dead. And you can see a lot of people who are, have gone through failed after failed relationships, and or they're divorced, and they just get devastated in their life, and they still can't find it, that solid foundation and this is just swirling around with all these uh, chaotic emotions in this world, and just filled with a lot of overwhelming distress, and it causes a lot of problems in that person who's trying to just live, but there's no thriving, there's no source of really overcoming all of this stuff. So I really feel like this is the time for everything to be done away with. I would say I'm fed up with it. That's kind of an intense way of putting it, but I'm like, I that's why I wrote the book. But this has been, it was in 2019 when I finally released it on Amazon, and then I was like, you know what, this is doing some good. I when I talk to people, it's good. I hand out books and stuff. And it's a good conversation. It's kind of it's working, but to me, I'm like, I've got to start talking about it in a podcast or something. It's because this might add to the acceleration of these ideas of helping. And many other people do this. I understand that, but what I want to do is just try to do my part, I guess, and just use all these experiences. These aren't just my experiences. These are many people giving wonderful insights and, I would say, revelation. Because during this process, during the affliction, there are people, friends of mine who I stay in contact with and have long conversations about this stuff. And along the way, they receive their own revelation. And so I include these in this book. And one of them was about romance. And I have a friend uh, who defined romance as, I define it in the book, but it's a very what I concluded was this very romance is a very unique kind of love that's exclusive to a masculine man and a feminine woman. And that's what I would put it as. And it's this is a very unique kind of love where it stands out above all the rest, and it is connected with our relationship with Jesus Christ, the man's relationship with Jesus Christ, and the woman's relationship with Jesus Christ, and then the man and the woman with each other. So this perpetuate, or this starts the process or the desire to continue that love, and that turns into a family. It turns into procreation, adoption, having love and affection towards other people. But it's not all the same as a romantic relationship. So there's this really powerful romantic type of feeling that is a dance between the masculine and the feminine, and they both have these equal powers that they simultaneously honor and yield to each other's power. One of the opposite contrasts to that is the battle of the sexes. And I've heard that for so many years, probably all my life. I don't know, since uh, I was in, I don't know, a long time, years, a lot of years. I can't say exactly what year, but it was like that back in high school. I heard of this. It's just the battle of the sexes, and I saw that game at a thrift store, and it just reminded me of that idea. And I'm like kind of rolling my eyes at it because I saw the subtitle and it says see which one is the superior sex. And I'm like, this is one of the falsehoods that we have in our culture, that we kind of play it off as some kind of game, and it's kind of funny. We just but over time in the culture, it turns into a serious thing. Like, if you continue to hold on to the idea that somehow in your head that you're the superior sex, either a man or a woman thinking that in their head, then they are definitely going to have many other problems with that. They're going to have narcissism. They're going to have type of controlling others, just constantly thinking that they're they have to get their idea across and have their way. because they're just the dominant sex and they have to have that way, or it's just a dumb, and any other way is dumb. And that's one that I could point out as a contrast to the beautiful romantic dance between the masculine and feminine, between a man and woman. It's like this each of you have this unique power that the other that each other can honor and respect and yield to, and it produces this unification that is powerful when they both recognize each other's power, and they simultaneously yield to it. And it's the dance, like the symbol of the yin and yang, and I just think of that right now for some reason, but I think that's what that means, is the feminine and masculine unity into one circle. But they are one, but they are different, but they are one, and it's just this wonderful unity. And that's what I see as romance, when it stirs up. And romance can be stirred up and again, and it's this, it never gets old. People just love that feeling, and so they have that longing for that romance. And Jesus Christ himself encompasses all types of love. And we get the symbolic meaning of the bride and groom, and the marriage with the groom who is Jesus Christ, and the bride who is the church. Jesus Christ himself can be that symbol of that union between a man and a woman. And so each other, they will recognize each other's powers, and be able to have that wonderful, constantly flowing as a fountain of life, that romantic relationship. And that a lot of times has to be really fought for and sought out. And if it's been lost, or the flame has been put out, there's a way, with inspiration and revelation, can really find that. And I have other examples I could share with that. And there was a couple who were later in their, I would say, 60s. I saw this in their relationship, where it the woman had kind of I would say, an epiphany or revelation herself, that she saw a side in her husband that she always appreciated, but has forgotten, or just taken for granted. And so, as soon as she like caught a hold of that thought again, that he was always a good man and always wanted to do good things, and honor his relationship with Jesus Christ. And that thought in itself brought that same type of feeling of the stir of romantic type of love. And he the husband was you could see all the weaknesses he's had. Sometimes he has dumb ideas, or he's just kind of like doesn't know what to do with his life. Trying to figure out finances and finding a job and stuff. So you see this all over the place. You have this major disappointment between men and women, and men are constantly trying to, in general, just trying to find a job, get something that they are really happy with, what they're passionate about. And then the women are trying to get them to do what they're supposed to do. It's this kind of dynamic of what's going on there. And so there are many reasons. I put these all in my book, so you can just read that. Kind of gives this overall perspective of what's going on. And each of these subjects can be, you could write a book about each of these things. But this is just, that's why I call it a guide, because it just gives you some ideas, and then you can go somewhere else to find more information, or find an expert that talks about that stuff. Like narcissism, I thought it was a good topic to talk about, so I include that, because the narcissism includes a lot of different things. It includes selfishness, pride, controlling others, manipulation, emotional abuse, all these things, because of insecurity themselves. They're trying to empower themselves. So this the word narcissistic person or whatever it is a good term to talk, a good idea to talk about. It encompasses so many things. So there's a lot of lack of connection between men and women, and not everybody goes through this, but they may have healthy family relationships themselves, and they find other people with healthy family relationships, and it works out. And so if you're that type of person, and you're really you feel that natural love, and it just comes very naturally to you, and also to your spouse, and you're wondering why everybody's struggling. You see them struggling just like you see the single zombie apocalypse happening before your eyes, but you're not sure why is this happening. Is it the guy's fault because they're not filling their responsibilities? If they're just like losers, or they're not working hard enough, or they're selfish, they're on their own track, or is it the women doing whatever they're doing? I don't know. They're whatever reasons you put to it. This will. I think this book. At least I'm hoping that this book will give that overall perspective, even if you don't understand or identify with everything that's going on in this book. But somebody has experienced it, and some of these things I've only observed, but I haven't necessarily experienced. But I feel it. I feel it when somebody expresses it. I really feel it, and I don't blame anybody who is going through this type of thing. But um, I really feel like the time is. I want the time to be now. Let's just put this behind us. Let's start overcoming this stuff. This book is for people who are really trying to find answers and overcome, and to find some kind of perspective, and to just find themselves in their life where they're just like, I just want to find some kind of new perspective that I've never seen before. Can't, I'm tired of what I've always been thinking. I'm tired of all the same things over and over again. I want to find something new. And I'm hoping that this book will do that. And it'll kind of shed some light on some things. I'm hoping that it'll lead you into your own revelation. And I also wrote in my book that there is a simultaneous attack upon masculinity and femininity. And both men and women get their individual customized attack. And where each sex doesn't see it in the others, because they're working through their own struggles. So that's one of the thing I'm trying to express in there, is that there's a kind of a pointing of the fingers. Men and women are pointing the fingers at each other if they're having bad experiences, divorces, whatever it is, and they're pointing the finger because they're struggling with their own feeling of being attacked. And so what this book does is kind of pulls ourselves out of the situation, and we look at both what's going on with both sides of the attack on men and the attack on women. And then you'll start realizing, wow, there's some outside influences going on here, and what is that? So I start talking about the media and the culture, and the how the media affects the culture in tremendous ways, and putting those false ideas into our heads. And the battle of the sexes is that first very clear example of that. It's through the media that gets promoted on radio shows and games and all those sorts of things. And then our TV shows, our movies, everything gets inundated with all of these false ideas of, you could just have sex with your friends, but it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't cause any problems. Just be okay. But you don't have to have morals to understand that leads to bad things. Like it doesn't work. And so these time tested values, these things, you don't have to be religious to really believe in them, because they are very uh, these these values that we should have in our culture just are just not there anymore. So anyway, this is all for the first podcast, and I'm gonna think about what I want to do in the next ones. But if you're interested in this book, just look it up on Amazon. It's The Single Zombie Apocalypse: Complete Guide to the World of the Unmarried. My name is Barry Sines. I wrote this book. I have another book as well. I have more books in the works. But if you get to that, buying that book and reading it, and just giving it a rating on Amazon, it'll help out. I mean, I don't know Amazon. I don't know how the algorithms work on that, but just give a good feedback, honest feedback, I guess. But try to be positive. I guess I'm doing the best I can. Anybody can, it's one of those things where the book isn't perfect, but I'm trying. And so, anyway, we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you for tuning in.